I'm going to tell you right now why this matchup, and I don't care what anyone says, this matchup against LSU favors South Carolina. Locked On Gamecocks starts right now.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Locked On Gamecocks. I am your host, Chris Marler. I hope everyone's having a fantastic Wednesday. It is a somber day, a little bit. It is September 11th, which is a day, obviously, none of us will ever forget. And, we have a lot going on in general, but we also have a lot going on this weekend, and I'm fired up to talk about it. And like I told you in the preview, we are going to talk about the matchup against this LSU team. Before we do, I want to say thank you, first and foremost, to our listeners and our everyday listeners. Shout out to everyone making Locked On Gamecocks their first listen each and every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Remember, we are a free and available podcast wherever you get your podcasts on any platform and streaming platform, as well as on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, today's episode is brought to you by our good friends at Ultimate GM. It is the Ultimate College Football HC, is a brand new mobile game that is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. Begin your coaching legacy today. Guys, let's get into it. I'm fired up about this game this weekend against LSU. I know Carolina fans are as well. It feels like there has been more excitement around the program in the last 3 to 4 days than there has been in a really long time. Maybe a year and a half, since you beat Clemson. But it's always been these kind of sporadic bursts of excitement. You know what I mean? Like, you have the time where you beat Tennessee and Clemson, in the same month. I believe it was back-to-back weeks. Another time I can think of, just for me personally, that 2021 Belk Bowl felt like you had a lot of energy going into the offseason. How do you sustain that? Well, I'll tell you one way you sustain it is you beat a team like LSU. I told you since the beginning of doing this show, and listen, I'm not going to make any apologies for this, but I'm fired up, man. I am fired up today because so a little bit about me, and I've told you guys this before. My main job, I work for ESPN Baton Rouge. We cover LSU. I live in Columbia, South Carolina, but I that's the company I work for. I'm very close to a lot of people that are close to this program, and I've heard LSU fans and talking heads and all the above dismiss South Carolina for a number of months. I've told you since I started this show, hosting the show on July 1st or July 2nd of this year, this is a gettable game for South Carolina. And now we're here. And I'm telling y'all right now, I don't know what the final score is going to be yet. I'm not ready to give my prediction on it. But this matchup favors South Carolina. The matchup itself favors South Carolina for a number of reasons. Let's get into where the matchup benefits the most. You look at LSU. What does LSU do? Well, they can't run the football at all. They can't run the football at all. And what are the strengths of South Carolina? The strengths of South Carolina are the defense. We've been saying this, or is the defense. We've been saying this since the summer. This is going to be a top 5 defense in the SEC. That's the kind of potential and capability and athletes that you have and scheme that you have on the back end. Clayton White is a guy that sat there for a long time, getting a lot of, unfair, maybe scrutiny, maybe some fair, I don't know. And now you look up and it's like, man, you've seen what he did to Kentucky for 3 or 4 straight years now. You haven't given up over 20 points in any of your last 5 games as a defense. You're going to get tested this week because you're facing an LSU offense that's put up a ton of points. They put up a ton of points mainly through the air. Listen, Jaden Daniels ain't walking through that door. Garrett Nussmeier's great. I think he's a great, great quarterback. But Garrett Nussmeier is not Jaden Daniels. Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., they're not walking through that door. I like Kyron Lacey. I think he's good. I think Mason Taylor's good as well. They're not the same. This is a team that a week ago struggled against Nichols at home. It was 16-14 in the first half. Now, I know they won by 3 scores. And you can sit there and say, well, Chris, South Carolina struggled against Kentucky against Old Dominion as well. True. But in terms of momentum going into a game, who do you think that favors? Because I heard all offseason, this is not a game. My boss, Matt Moscona, came on this show and told y'all that just South Carolina's not that good. They don't have any good athletes. Okay. The matchup favors South Carolina. The matchup in this game favors South Carolina. And I will die on that hill. Lenore Sellers has not been great. I don't really expect him to be great this weekend. He might have his chances because LSU's defense has got some holes for sure. I don't expect him to be great this weekend. But the strengths of each team, right? Like the strength of LSU or the strength of South Carolina is the defense. And it's at all three levels. They're very, very opportunistic. You get 2 more turnovers this weekend against Kentucky. One of them you return for a touchdown. That's 70 total turnovers since the start of the 2021 season. Now you look at LSU. What does LSU do well? Well, they have what I was told was the best offensive line in college football going into the season. And then you watch that USC game, and you see him get physically manhandled, especially in the interior offensive line. And now they got to go up against Sanders and Huntley and Tonka. Okay, well, then we'll just drop back and throw the ball. Well, now you got to go up against the best pass rush so far in the SEC through 2 games that we've seen. There was a stat that they brought up in the Kentucky game where, like, again, Kentucky ran the ball 18 straight times, and it wasn't because they were having a bunch of success running the football. It's because they had no time to throw the ball. LSU hasn't allowed a sack all season. That's fine. But what South Carolina, what Clayton White will do in this game is make LSU completely one-dimensional. And you know why, guys? Because they are one-dimensional. They are one-dimensional. They cannot run the football. They are last in the SEC in running the ball. They're the only team in the SEC that hasn't scored a rushing touchdown this year. Make them one-dimensional. Make Garrett Nussmeier go on the road and beat you. And guys, when I tell you right now, if it was sunny skies and 70 degrees and perfect weather, whatever, I would still take South Carolina in that matchup. But it's not. It's a 70% chance of rain. They're going to have to run the football. And they can't. They can't run the football. Now, can South Carolina run the football? I hope so. There's more opportunities to do so. They've proven more so far through 2 games they can. But the key to this game, you're going to have to take care of the football. You can't have any instances or situations like you have in the first couple games with Norris where, bad exchanges, delayed reads or like delayed decisions being made, any of that kind of stuff. You have got to take care of the football first and foremost. But this is a matchup that favors South Carolina. I will die on that hill. Every which way you look at it, LSU is bad. They are bad up front trying to establish the run. They're averaging like 3.5 yards per carry. Again, they haven't allowed a sack. They also haven't faced Dylan Stewart, right? They haven't faced Kennard. They haven't faced this type of pass rush. And the fact that you're going to go into a game on the road where I've told you about their struggles before. I'll tell you about them again, just to remind you, in case you forgot. Since the start of the 2021 season, LSU is 8-12 on the road, away from Tiger Stadium, 8-12. They've averaged over 40 points per game at home since the 2021 season. Over 40 points per game at home. They average 11 less on the road. This is going to be a hostile environment. I don't care if it's raining. I don't care if they're getting effects from Francine. I don't care if it's 1,000 degrees. It's going to be a hostile environment they're walking into. This isn't Vegas, right? This isn't Vegas that you're going into and it's like, oh, it's a 60-40 split fan-wise, but we're still away from them. These struggled in. How are they going to move the football consistently? I expect this to be a low-scoring affair, which is shocking because LSU has put up a lot of points over time, and I do think that South Carolina will have its chances to be able to score. But I'm telling you right now, every which way you look at this, LSU struggles on the road. They score less points on the road. They cannot run the football, and I think they do have 2 of the most talented tackles in the country. If you look at Field Yates, his mock draft, all that kind of stuff. That he released right before the start of the season, he has both of these LSU offensive tackles going in the first round. And that's awesome. That's great. They might be the most talented offensive line in the country. They might be the most decorated. They might have the most draft picks on their offensive line and first-round draft picks on their offensive line than any other O-line in the country. I don't know. That could happen. If they have 2 first-round picks to tackle, yeah, I would assume they would have the most first-round picks off that offensive line. They haven't faced a pass rush like this all season. And regardless of how good those guys are in pass pro, they are not good in run blocking. They're just not. There's no reason that they could struggle this mightily against the run or against run defenses through 2 games if they were. So I'm saying it once again, guys, this matchup favors South Carolina. And I think the rain only helps. But the matchup in general, like offensive versus defensive, LSU's offense versus South Carolina's defense favors South Carolina. South Carolina's offense versus LSU's defense, I think that favors South Carolina as well. Because it's a defense that's not been great for LSU. They've been beaten at times. And here's the one thing you know from South Carolina over the last several games. Get to 20 points. Get to 20 points and win the game. I told you this before Kentucky. Get to 20 points. Because you know there's a chance that they're not going to score 20 against you. This game might be a little bit different because LSU's offense and Garrett Nussmeier's been really good at quarterback. He's been really good. I think he's got like 8 touchdowns on the season, right? He had 6 last week against Nichols. Brother, you had to have 6 touchdowns against Nichols, though, through the air because you couldn't run the football. So how can you get chunk plays? How can you score quickly? Because here's the thing about South Carolina. It may not be these long, sustained drives. But they are going to suffocate you on defense and force you into mistakes. And then if you can work with a short field, like you did against ODU, or you can get a pick 6, or you can just continue to make a quarterback run for his life so where he's finally going to make a mistake, try and force a throw. You saw it against Kentucky. They forced Brock Vandagriff out of that game because he could not have time to make a decision or throw the ball. Like, listen, crazy stat I saw from the Kentucky game. Brock Vandagriff he was 3 of 10 for 30 yards. 30 yards passing. Okay? That's crazy enough. 30 yards passing on 3 completions. Guys, he had a 31-yard completion in the game. I mean, think about that. The matchup favors South Carolina. Maybe because I'm wearing my stupid hat you guys told me not to wear. That's my bad. You know what? We'll pause. We'll have a wardrobe change. How about that? Before we do, I want to talk to you guys about our good friends at the Ultimate GM. Let me get in here. I'm fired up today, man. This is just a good day. I hope everyone else is having a good day. I'm excited for this game. And it feels nice to have the entire eyes of the country on South Carolina. Am I right? That's not the right one. Ultimate College Football. Where's it at? Here we go. Okay. Let's just go ahead and read this. That's very professional of me. Hey, Locked On Carolina fans, Locked On Gamecocks. I want to take a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love as much as I do. Ultimate College Football HC. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of South Carolina? From recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps and handling school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle the pressure? And here's what I really love about this game. You are responsible for calling offensive plays during the games. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, but will shape the future and legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football HC is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. I'm going to say it. It's 100% playable offline, guys. So if you have Spectrum, which sucks, then yeah, you'll be able to play this offline. You can play on the go as you want and when you want to. And of course, we have a special offer for Locked On Gamecock fans. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk as it will help get your team off to a strong start. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com or look it up in the app stores. It's Ultimate College Football HC. Begin your coaching legacy today. All right. I also want to talk to you about our good friends at the Game Time app. Guys, I talk to you guys about these guys a lot. I think they do a tremendous job. It's in this day and age, especially, it's hard to find actual companies, I think, that have the best interest in mind for their potential buyer and their customer and all that kind of stuff. Game Time app is that. They do a great job, whether you're trying to buy tickets the day of or the day before, whatever. The ticket prices go down the closer you get to the game. One of the other things I love about this is they give you the all-in pricing up front. So that way you can see exactly how much your total cost is going to be right up front instead of having to wait, figure out what's, oh boy. Instead of having to wait, figure out if there's going to be anything added on like this. It's not like some of these other apps, some of these other brokers, especially with tickets and how bad they can be. You get that up front. You can see your exact seat location up front without any sort of issues. You have the lowest price guarantee. They will offer you 110% of the difference of your total versus another total. If you find it cheaper somewhere else, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the entire ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Now, listen, terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time app today. What time is it? It's game time, y'all. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back for the rest of the show, where I continue to tell you how I think this matchup favors South Carolina. But first, a quick word from our sponsors and a wardrobe change, because I have messed up, and I've worn y'all's least favorite hat, which is not good luck for us. All right, we'll be right back. Locked On Gamecocks continues next. All right, we're back. Welcome back into Locked On Gamecocks. We've changed hats. I'm wearing my favorite shirt. We're ready to go, guys. And listen, I want to get into some of the numbers here and get really into why I think this matchup, again, continues to favor South Carolina. But I want to do it specifically and talk about some of the real game and real-time struggles LSU's had. Now, you look at the last game. Not everything can just be thrown in here and be like, oh, well, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is struggles against Old Dominion, right? And then you look at what they did a week ago and they dominate Kentucky. It wasn't a dominating offensive performance by South Carolina by any means, but you won by 25, right? Win ugly, it doesn't matter. Win the game, right? Like a win is a win is a win is a win. So you look at the things that Nichols did to LSU last week, and that sentence alone seems crazy. Look at the things that Nichols did, taking a page out of what Nichols has done so that you can go up and kind of game plan for this. They had a running back named, I'm not making this up, Colin Guggenheim. And this dude just diced them up. Colin Guggenheim had 25 carries for 145 yards and 2 touchdowns. In the third quarter, at one point, they scored, it was 23-21 to start the second half. He had a 2-point game going into the start of the second half. Now, here's the thing. Now, again, he had 2 touchdowns. They primarily were able to run the football. They had a lot of success running the football. They threw the ball okay. They were 16 of 22 for 113 yards. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. If you're Lenore Sellers, it's kind of what he's done the first couple of games. Ball control is going to be huge, and here's why. Now, when you look at like the numbers from what they did, they had 2 long scoring drives. Like Nichols scored 3 touchdowns, but 2 of the scoring drives that they had, right? This is at LSU. 2 of the scoring drives they had were, let's see here, let me pull this up. Hold on, bear with me. 13 plays, 75 yards. Took off 8 minutes off the clock. 13 plays, 75 yards. 13 plays, 84 yards. Took off 7 minutes off the clock. Keep the ball out of their hands. They cannot score if they don't have the ball. So how do you figure out a way to get sustained drives for South Carolina? It's something they've struggled with at times. But I think the keys to this game, turn them over, and they will turn it over, okay? Turn them over, put them in long situations, and then have them create short yard situations for yourself. And when you don't, you got to have sustained drives. You got to get multiple first downs. One of the things that I was most impressed with in the second half of that game for South Carolina, I remember tweeting this out right as it was happening, right? Man, South Carolina's 0 for 6 on third downs. They have not been able to convert a third down. This is when the game is like still pretty tight. 32-yard completion. I'm fine with a ugly win, like rock fights, whatever. It kind of feels like this is a team that South Carolina's going to drag you down over the deep end and say, can you compete with us down here? Like get into our murky, muddy waters and try and win like on our terms, the way we want you to play. Clayton White has been a master at that. No team has scored over 20 points against South Carolina in their last 5 total games, right? Dating back to last season. The team that scored the most is Old Dominion with 19. How can you figure out a way to get to 24 points? How can you figure out a way to get long, sustained drives? Because I'm telling you right now, this is also a young quarterback for LSU with Nussmeier and some other unproven guys. If you get them into a situation where they're frustrated on the road, they will break. Guys, I'm telling you right now, I watched that LSU Southern Cal game from start to finish, and I was really impressed with how LSU came out of the gates. Really impressed. Kyron Lacey had 7 catches for 94 yards. He was a receiver. They targeted like 5 times on the first drive alone. Nussmeier looked crisp. Nussmeier's a really good quarterback. He is. He's not Jaden Daniels. And what I mean by that is if you have Nussmeier in a situation where it's 3rd and 8, 3rd and 13, 3rd and whatever, you're not going to see an 80-yard run from Garrett Nussmeier. Pin your ears back and get to him. Keep them get them behind the chains early. Get them off schedule early. And you will win this football game. Like, now there's other things that have to happen. You've got to take care of the football, all that kind of stuff. This is what I keep saying, though. Like this is what I keep saying. You guys, you guys have heard me say it repeatedly. They don't play well on the road. And what USC did to them was you're in this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And you get to the 4th quarter, and Lincoln Riley decided to unveil some new things with his offense, and they put up like 184 yards in the 4th quarter. I think they had like 3 touchdowns against them in the 4th quarter. LSU couldn't do anything, and it was just kind of like this, like what's the movie Cinderella Man? Like it's like wait, and all of a sudden it's like now. Fantastic movie, by the way. If you haven't seen Cinderella Man, that might be the pump-up movie you should watch for this weekend because it'll get you fired up. But like, pick your spot, and then when it's there, unload. That's what they did against Kentucky. That's what South Carolina can do with this game, man. I'm like the camera's shaking. I'm so fired up. This is going to be. They got outscored in the 4th quarter against USC. They got outscored 14-3. Okay. Now Miller Moss had 370 yards passing. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen for Lamar ourselves, I don't think. But you look at what they did in the 4th quarter. They suffocated him. The Southern Cal defense suffocated them. You had an offense that was moving the ball up and down the field. It was a 13-17 game. LSU had the ball to start in the 4th quarter, and you end up getting a 5 plays and you had a punt. Then you had a 3-and-out for -7 yards. You held them to a field goal, and then you threw an interception to close the game. Now, all the while, what USC did was, well, they got down near the 33, and they had a turnover on downs on 4th and 9 or whatever. But then touchdown in the game. Suffocate them defensively. Pick your spots. Somebody is going to run free at some point for South Carolina. This is a bad secondary for LSU. It's a bad secondary for LSU. It has been for 2 seasons. They don't get to the quarterback a lot. Like, Harold Perkins is the best defensive player in the country 2 years ago. He might not even be a top 5 defensive player on this field on Saturdays. Like production-wise, talent-wise, he is the most talented player that will step on the field on either side of the ball. Either side of the ball. For whatever reason, Brian Kelly and them cannot figure out how to utilize this man. It makes no sense. I watched this guy his freshman year in 2022 where I don't know why I said it like that, 2022. It's like they use the government name for the year. In 2022, Harold Perkins took over at times. He took over in the Bama game. He was a spy for Bryce Young. Against Arkansas, he was like a one-man wrecking crew and won that game almost single-handedly. He was arguably at the end of that season the best player in the country defensively. And since then, they have just moved him all around, tried to do like, we're going to put him in middle linebacker. We're going to put him like on ball, off ball. Like, buddy, let him run free. They cannot figure it out. The confidence that South Carolina has going to this game, especially versus a team like LSU. I think if you ask people surface level in Baton Rouge right now, like, hey, you guys gonna win this game? Yeah, of course. I think deep down they don't want to get into the ins and outs of this game because they know that confidence is going to be shaken dramatically. Drag them down into the murky, mucky water and make them play on your terms, and South Carolina can win this game. Flat out. So that is all for the second segment of this show. Before we close out with some other news and notes and things like that, I want to talk to you about our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel has yet another really, really cool promotion they're doing. It's a profit boost in the app. I am still trying to find the overlay here and being like a real. There it is. Look at me being professional. All right. Back to our friends at FanDuel. You've heard us talk about FanDuel before. It is America's #1 sports book. We'll have something a little different for you, right? September 22nd, from now until September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and you get 3 weeks free for a trial for NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Guys, if you watched the Panthers play last week, you might want to have as many other options of football to watch as you can, because that was a tough one. But all you need is a YouTube TV-based plan. You'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment. You can cancel anytime. If that's not enough, be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's Double Your Winnings for all of Sunday, September 15th, pre-game money line bets. Profit Boost will be live starting Thursday, September 12th. View your account page now to learn more about your boost. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. All right, guys, that is all for the second part of the show. Let's get into one last final segment. We're going to talk a little bit about College Game Day and some things like that and some of the other matchups, and we will close out today's show. All right, we're gonna close today on a pretty quick segment here. Last segment of the day, but College Game Day is coming to Columbia this week. It's the first time in 10 years. A lot of speculation on who the game day picker is going to be. I think as of I'm recording this Wednesday around noon, they have not announced it yet. Why not just have it be Don Staley? I would love it, Stephen Garcia. If Stephen Garcia, it would be awesome to watch Stephen Garcia on that panel. And I love Stephen to death. To have him come on there and be next to Nick Saban and have to have those. First off, Stephen Garcia and Pat McAfee would love to have a camera crew follow them around all night, in 5 points of the Vista or whatever. The last time I think that LSU came to South Carolina, I think it was 2008. So he was obviously still quarterback there. And I think that when they came to town, I think I was working at Liberty Tap Room in the Vista because I remember their fans coming in. And we didn't run out of everything. We ran out of a lot. I will say that. So shout out to Liberty Tap Room in the Vista and Liberty on the Lake as well. But here's my 2 thoughts on it. I think you put either Don Staley or you put Stephen Garcia. Watching Stephen Garcia and Nick Saban have to have actual in-person communication for an extended period of time would be hilarious. Also, why not Don Staley? Why not have the GOAT college football coach and up there at the same time with maybe the best college coach of any sport in the country right now? So that's my 2 cents. That's what I think. I hope all of you have a fantastic rest of your Wednesday afternoon. And we will be back tomorrow with more breakdowns of the game coming up. And we'll get you ready for the kickoff, I guess, Saturday at noon, LSU versus South Carolina. By the way, the line dropped all the way down to 6.5 last night. Remember, it opened at like around 9.5. But it dropped down 3 points to 6.5. I think it's hovering around 7 right now. ESPN FPI, we'll get into more of this tomorrow. It's like a 48.5% chance for South Carolina to win. That's gone up significantly. All this momentum is shifting in South Carolina's favor. And I think there's a lot of good reasons as to why that's happening. So have a fantastic rest of your afternoon. We will talk to you all tomorrow. Go Cox.